Welcome to Cravings Control for Fat Loss. I'm your host, Laura Cavallo, former sugar binger, overeater, and yo-yo dieter turned fat loss and cravings coach for hundreds of busy women. Here at Cravings Control for Fat Loss, I'll be sharing mindset, movement, and metabolism strategies for those who are ready to ditch the fad diet cycle and slim down without counting calories, tracking points, or giving up any of the foods they love. Get ready to embrace progress over perfection, grace over guilt, and bring curiosity and learning to the inevitable ups and downs of your life. Expect a decrease in your cravings while seeing and feeling an improvement in how you look, how you feel, and your overall quality of life. I am so excited you're here, boo. Let's get started. Hey there, welcome to Cravings Control for Fat Loss. I'm your host, Laura Cavallo, your cravings coach. And today we're starting the podcast off with 5 misconceptions about cravings. And I really felt like this was one of the most important topics to start with because it's going to lay the groundwork for what you can expect in this podcast. You're going to be hearing a lot about mindset and metabolism and nutrition and your childhood relationship with food and different reasons that you crave and different ways to manage them that go beyond maybe some of the tried and failed strategies that you have likely already tried. And, these are misconceptions that I wish someone had tackled when I was struggling with cravings and occasional binges. And I wish that there was just someone that had normalized what I was going through and could have helped me along and laid this foundation for me in the beginning. And, when we start working with clients at Laura Cavallo Coaching who struggle with, cravings, hunger, and overeating, we really do start with just laying out some of the truths and the misconceptions about cravings so that we can move forward with less shame, guilt, and fear when it comes to managing this big part of our lives that can be really impactful and at times detrimental to our psyche, our well-being, and our health. So let's dive in and let's start with our first misconception when it comes to cravings. So the first misconception about cravings is that they make you a bad person and that you must be inherently flawed and that something is wrong with you and that you're pretty much a freak if you have cravings or you binge or you overeat. And I know I struggled a lot with this when I was in my 20s and early 30s, just kind of really feeling embarrassed going through the binge and restrict cycle and seeing all this food laid out in front of me and having eaten so much and still not feeling full and still wanting more and just really not being able to control myself. I felt like there was like this monster within me, right? And, as time went on, I learned that I wasn't the only person struggling and that cravings are extremely common and they're extremely normal. Even more so if you are someone that has struggled with maybe the all or nothing dieting mindset, if you have tried different fad diets, restrictive diets, elimination diets to help you lose weight or control cravings, those types of protocols can really exacerbate cravings and make them more intense and magnified. And, as much as we restrict, we will also reel the other direction and end up binging and overeating. So it can feel sort of like this Jekyll and Hyde situation. But I want to assure you that, they are common, they are completely normal, and I really want you to start to wrap your mind around this concept because this is really what's going to be able to help you move forward with more of an objective an objective approach rather to your cravings, right? Instead of feeling ashamed or guilty because of them, just kind of being like, yeah, this is what I'm experiencing. Like, let's find some solutions. So that is misconception number 1, that cravings make you a bad person or that you're inherently flawed or that you are what I used to think that I was, a freak. And you are not, and we are not. The second misconception is that you need to get rid of all of the foods that you crave and love in order to conquer your cravings. Now, if it were this simple, right, then we would probably all be doing a really good job at managing our cravings, because we have probably already tried this before. We've tried getting rid of the treat foods, and we've tried not buying them, and we've tried restricting them and white knuckling it. But the reality is that cravings don't just go away, right? Even if we try and resist them or push them away or be strong, we don't want to, what I like to say, we don't want to push them away, but rather we want to try and lean into cravings. And instead of denying them, we want to learn how to manage how much we eat when we crave and how often we eat when we crave. Because at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're not giving up our friggin' chocolate and wine and bacon and cookies and apple pie on Thanksgiving. We are just not doing it. And I don't think that we should have to. In fact, I know that it's possible to still indulge and be able to manage cravings and have a healthy relationship with food and slim down. But we just need to be able to learn how to lean into our cravings and incorporate them in a more balanced and moderate way so that we don't feel so restricted and have to binge them. So misconception number 2 is that you have to eliminate or get rid of the foods that you love to conquer cravings. And that is, in fact, not correct. The third misconception is that you just need more self-control and willpower in order to manage your cravings and stop binging. And again, to the point of number 2, if it were this easy, then we would all just be managing our cravings a lot better. But that is really not the case. In fact, self-control and willpower play a very small role when it comes to cravings control. And the reason is self-control and willpower have an inverse relationship with stress, right? So the more stress we have, the less self-control and willpower that we are able to exert. And the reason is when we're in stressful situations, we react more impulsively, right? It's more of like an immediate reaction. For example, maybe during work, you have a stressful day, right? And you get an email and you're stressed and you immediately respond, right? Instead of maybe pausing. The same might be true if maybe you're triggered by a stressful situation at home with the kids or your partner. You might just find yourself in the kitchen mindlessly eating out of a box of crackers. And so much the same way, once we've gone through a really stressful day, the last thing that we're able to do well is exert self-control and willpower. The truth is that cravings happen for a variety of reasons, okay? And I've identified 3 different cravings archetypes, which I'll go over in our next podcast episode. But they happen for 3 different reasons that I've observed. One is environmental, one is emotional, and the other is physiological. Okay. So when we're actually able to understand our cravings triggers within these archetypes and within these categories, then we are able to stop relying on self-control and willpower and actually pull out these really helpful tools from our tool belt to help us better manage cravings. So that is cravings misconception number 3, is that you just need more willpower and self-control to manage cravings. The 4th misconception is that a good way to make up for overindulging is to either overexercise or undereat. Now, the reality is that we don't necessarily want to use over exercising or under eating as a way to kind of earn or burn our calories that we over or under ate. Because what happens at the end of the day is that we're going to end up craving and wanting to overeat more. And that's because our body wants to stay at homeostasis. Our body wants to stay at a maintenance of calorie consumption, right? It doesn't want to undereat. And, as much as you might think, our body also does not want to overeat. It kind of wants to just stay where it is. So when we put it in really drastic scenarios where we're grossly under eating calories or grossly over burning calories, our body is like, well, like we need to make up these calories. We still need your brain to function. We still need to have our organs functioning properly. We need to give you energy to move around throughout the rest of the day and to make good brain decisions. So we don't want to actually use exercise or eating less or more to make up for our cravings. And And the reality is that cravings don't happen in a vacuum, right? It's not just eat this and exercise like this and cravings will magically be better, right? The truth is that cravings are impacted by all sorts of things within our lifestyle. Things like stress and sleep and our social relationships and our childhood relationship with food and our mindset and perception around food, around our bodies, around food in general. Okay. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about how these lifestyle habits impact cravings and strategies around these lifestyle habits to help you not only have a healthier relationship with food and manage overeating, but actually increase your quality of life as we do so. Right. So you're going to see strategies intersecting all sorts of these lifestyle habits to help you manage cravings. So that is misconception number 4, is that we can just use exercise or over or under eating to make up for cravings. And the 5th misconception is that we just need more shame, guilt, and food fear in order to feel more in control over our food habits and our cravings. But the reality, and you're going to hear me say the reality, is so much because I am a realist. And, over the last 3 years of working specifically with women in cravings and over the last 8 years in fitness and 15 years in athletics, I have seen so much truth and consistent patterns when it comes to mindset around food and diet. And that's why I feel so passionately about misconception number 5. The more shame, guilt, and fear that you have around your cravings and your binges and your overeating, the less likely you are to be able to find solutions and move forward in a healthy and balanced way. And the reason that is, and I equate this to kind of like fear, shame, food guilt, judgment. It's kind of like a fog that you can't see past, right? You binge and you feel immediately guilty, and then you might end up self-sabotaging, right? Or you feel so ashamed for maybe the scale going up after, a more indulgent holiday season. And you're just like, well, fuck it. Like, there's no use in even trying to eat well now. I'll just figure it out in the new year, right? All of these emotions and feelings are like a fog that prevent you from actually moving forward with objective solutions and just trying to understand more, like, why did that craving happen? Like, what was the trigger? Who was around? Did I eat today? Did I exercise a lot? Maybe that's why I'm a little bit more hungry, right? Am I just falling into some old patterns? Was I really stressed, right? We can't ask ourselves those questions in a more objective and graceful way when we lead with shame, guilt, and food fear. So throughout this podcast, you're going to hear me ask of you and encourage you to lead with more grace, more understanding, more flexibility, more curiosity. Okay. These are the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, the approach that you need in order to be successful as we go through this journey together. So I really want to encourage you to shed that shame and guilt and food fear over the course of these coming weeks and months as we're together. And it's not going to happen overnight, okay? And that's okay. But I just want you to start to wrap your mind around some of these concepts. So misconception number 5 is the more shame, guilt, and food fear we have, the more control we have over our cravings. But that is in fact a fallacy. So those are the 5 major misconceptions when it comes to cravings. And, I want to turn these misconceptions around, and I want to lay out the 5 truths as we wrap up this podcast. So truth number 1 is cravings are common and normal. They don't make you a bad person, and you're not inherently flawed. Cravings happen for a number of different reasons, which we're going to discover together in this podcast and hopefully help you come up with some solutions that apply to your everyday life. Truth number 2 is that you don't have to get rid of your favorite foods in order to conquer cravings. In fact, I would encourage you to lean into your cravings so that you can learn how to indulge in a more balanced way and manage how much and how often you actually eat, which will lead you to a healthier relationship with food, which will lead you to being able to lose weight and shed fat, which will lead you to being able to enjoy your friggin' life and not have to get rid of, chocolates and candy and sweets and bacon and popcorn and wine and coffee, right? Things that we feel like we probably had to do in order to conquer cravings. Truth number 3 is that you don't need more self-control or willpower. You just need better strategies and better tools in your tool belt to conquer cravings. Truth number 4 is that cravings don't happen in a vacuum and that we need to go beyond diet and exercise to help you manage cravings. Things like stress, sleep, social relationships, and our mindset are going to come into play here as we manage cravings and come up with real strategies. And then truth number 5 is the better you can become, the better you can shed shame, guilt, and food fear as you navigate your cravings journey, the better equipped you will be to find solutions and implement strategies along the way. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that this was helpful. If you want to share anything in regards to this podcast or comment on anything, please go ahead and find me on Instagram and shoot me a DM. I would love, love, love to connect with you and hear what you thought about today's podcast. You can find me at LauraCavallo __ cravings _ coach on Instagram, and I can't wait to hear from you, girl. See you soon. Bye. Hey there, before you go, I want to invite you to subscribe to our holiday email series, The 12 Days of Cravings Control. In this free offer, you'll get one short email per day with a quick cravings tip, recipe, or workout to help you eat better, move more, and stay on track without having to dedicate a ton of time. The first email goes out on Monday, December 5th, and you can subscribe anytime through Friday, December 16th. See you there.